Hey guys, today we're taking a look at solving equations. Now, just like reading a graph and a table of a function is essential to the study of algebra, so are solving equations. So let's jump into solving some equations by doing a few examples for today. In example number one, we have the board game Monopoly. You purchase a property for a particular price of $750, and every time somebody lands on that property, they need to pay you $1,100. So your function for the profit there is 1100n minus 750. How much will you make if one player lands on that? Well, that can be found by substituting the value of 1 into the function for the profit. 1100 times 1 minus 750. That results in $350. Now the second part of this equation asks how many players must land on this property in order for you to clear at least $15,000. So I'm going to underline the word at least because that implies the profit needs to be greater than or equal to 1,500. So 1,500 is less than or equal to 1100n minus 750. Now we're going to use our rules for algebra to solve for the variable n. I'm going to add 750 to both sides, and then I'll end up dividing 1100 off of both sides. And that will isolate the variable n, the number of players I need. So when I take 15,750 and divide it by 1100, I'm going to end up with 14.3. So I actually cannot have a decimal of a player. So I know that the value has to be greater than or equal to 15. All right, let's take a look at our second example. This tip on solving equations called the distributive property should be very familiar to you. Remember to distribute any number out in front of a set of parentheses. Now, in example 2 here, we're given $50,000 as inheritance, and we want to deposit some of that money so that it starts to earn an interest. One part is going to earn 6% interest, and the other part is going to earn 4% interest. The interest equation is set up as E of x is equal to 0.06x plus 0.04 times 50,000 minus x. All right, it asks how much should we invest in our accounts so that we earn a minimum of $2,500 in the first year. So we'll say 2,500 is set equal to our equation for that interest. And now we need to distribute the 0.04 to the two terms inside the parentheses. When I do that, I get 0.06x plus 0.04 times 50,000, which results in 2,000, minus 0.04x. Now I'll combine like terms, move things across the equal sign by their inverse operation. So I'll end up with 500 is now equal to 0.02x. Finally, I need to get x by itself, so I'll divide both sides by 0.02. And when I take 500 and divide by 0.02, the resulting value x is equal to 25,000. All right, here's one more tip on how to solve an equation. And this is called clearing fractions. Whenever we have fractions, it gets a little bit messy when we want to solve for a variable. So you can simply clear a fraction by multiplying through by a common denominator. So let's take a look at this problem. In 2007-2008, Kevin Garnett scored a third of Boston's points in a particular game. Ray Allen scored a fourth of them, and the rest of the team combined had 60 points. We want to write an equation and model the situation and determine how many points Boston scored in this game, in addition to Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. So let's set up a variable p to represent the total number of points scored in the game, because we don't know what that is. I know a third of those points, p, were scored by Kevin Garnett, a fourth were scored by Ray Allen, and 60 points combined to give me the total number of points. So here's my equation, but they have fractions in it. That's kind of messy. So we're going to take a look at a way to clear that, and we're going to multiply through by 12 because it is a common multiple of 3 and 4. When I do that, I'll end up with 1/3 times 12, which results in 4p, 1/4 times 12, which results in 3p, 12 times 60, which results in 720, and then finally 12 times p, which is just 12p. Now I have a nice equation which I can combine like terms and solve for the value of p. So when I subtract 7p from both sides, I'll end up with 5p is equal to 720. Finally, divide off 5, and I'll get my value for p to be equal to 144. Now, that represented, remember, the total number of points. And I know a third of those points were scored by Kevin Garnett. So I'll say 1/3 of 144, and that gives me 48 points. So Kevin Garnett scored 48. How much did Ray Allen score? Now, one more pro tip on solving an equation. This is called distributing the negative, or the opposites of a sum theorem. So remember, whenever you have a negative out in front of a set of parentheses, you need to distribute that inside the parentheses to both of those terms. Let's take a look at example 4. We want to find out when h of y is equal to 100. So we'll set up 100 and set it equal to 13y minus the quantity 26 minus 3y. So there's our negative. It appears out in front of our parentheses. I need to distribute it to both of those terms. 100 is equal now to 13y minus 26, and a minus a negative becomes a plus, so it's plus 3y. Now we're going to combine our like terms. We'll get 16y minus 26. We'll move our 26 over by addition, set that equal to 16y, and divide both sides by 16. Finally, my result for y will be equal to 7.875. All right, so that's a few pro tips on solving equations. You're going to apply those tips in your homework.